Shalom, this is Amonute Tayac of Piscataway, your friendly neighborhood Shuman, Sophia Spiritualite, the AmaruKhan Miriyam. And we're here with a little video, some information I want to share that we're going to be building on, just to try to explain what this thing is with the color purple coming out today. So, here's the thing. The people who desire to see certain other people remain powerless, these individuals, they do things on a timer, and you can basically tell what they're trying to accomplish if you know what timeline they're using. So one thing that we're not doing, which we will focus in a little bit more on next year, is that we are not aligning with certain timelines that would allow us to take advantage of the energy to the best of our ability. And because we're not, deliberately aligning with these timelines, it's actually causing, things to be sort of out of balance because these people didn't have free reign over it. So the more of us that decide consciously to tap into certain timelines and really focus on those timelines, the better it is for humanity, because we will take over the timeline. So right now there's a battle of the timelines, and you may feel like something is wrong with the time. And sister and I are always talking about how the timeline is off, something is wrong with it, something is going on, we can't figure it out. We're in the battle of the timelines. And so we are going to win this battle 100%. But it's going to take people to behave in a more conscious effort. So, long story short, in another video, I will explain my predictions for next year. But this is one of the key data points that is going to allow me to make my predictions video. So I want to lay down the foundation for this first. Okay? And I'm going to have to do the predictions in another video because it's a little bit more in depth. But I want to show you this data point that we're going to use to correlate. So, as you all know, the color purple release is today. And so I pulled the chart. And I didn't do too much with it except to look at the chart and say, okay, there are a lot of favorable things in this chart. What do I mean by that? Well, you have a lot of stuff on the top half of the chart, which would be houses 7 through 12. You have a lot of things in the 9th and the 10th house, which specifically is like the mother and the father house on the outside. You have a lot of stuff in those two houses. You have a lot of things that are kind of aligned. You have this Mercury retrograde, but it's beneath the surface. It's something that you cannot see. And then you have so the wounded healer Chiron, that's in the 9th house, in the house of the mother, and the color purple is about a wounded feminine for sure. So they're using that. The Mercury Neptune square is still a pretty hard aspect, but it's not direct like it was a couple days ago on the solstice. So it's a little indirect, but it still packs a punch. There are not that many good or positive trines. All in all, I would say that this is the kind of chart you would want if you were going to launch a movie. For a lot of different reasons. Particularly, Pluto is not in retrograde, but a lot of other stuff is retrograde, and Pluto is underneath the surface. You've got your part of fortune in Aquarius, so you're using the sun and the moon. There's a lot of there's a lot of air, because you got Aquarius, you have Gemini, you got Pisces, which is a water. You got all the elements, all things that will make you laugh, it'll make you cry, it'll make you this, it'll make you that. Plus, you have the actual full moon starting tomorrow, so it is in the realm of the full moon energy as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of sort of elements that they're using to accomplish this movie being a success. So I went back in history and I looked for another movie that was made from a musical. But as it turned out, this other movie wasn't so successful. So here we have The Wiz. Now, I'm young, so I don't remember. I was not alive when The Wiz came out. The Wiz came out on October the 24th, 1978. That was a Tuesday. It came out at 7 p.m. I just to put 7 p.m. I just put in Hollywood because, you know, that's where the movies are made. And you see a very, very, very different chart here. First of all, it doesn't have nearly as many things on the top half of the chart, right? Not only that, it has the most things in this chart is Scorpio, and Scorpio is secretive and aggressive, so it's passive aggressive. It's not really good placements for a movie. You have your Vestal flame. Vesta is in Virgo, which is good, but it's kind of like in the 8th house, which is death and rebirth. So it's in the Scorpio house, so that also kind of neutralizes the energy. Now you have the part of fortune and Jupiter and the moon here together at in the 4th house, which is I call that the house of the mother. And it's in Leo, but it's not in a good placement because it's at the bottom of the chart instead of out at the top of the chart. You also have over here Chiron in the 12th house, and it's in retrograde. So it's kind of like churning through these old wounds, making things worse, just causing a lot of chaos in the areas of things that are secret. So you see a very, very different chart here. Now, we're going to talk about the differences between the color purple that came out today and the Wiz. The color purple, just if you break it, especially the musical, you just break it down to the basic points. The color purple is about traumatized women being forced to band together due to their trauma. Okay, if there's any camaraderie, it's trauma-based camaraderie. In the case of the Wiz, you have a black woman who literally saves everyone. She saves the Tin Man, she saves the Wiz, she saves all the people in the factory. All of these people are living off of her energy. She is saving all of these people. Now, why is this important? Because this sets the foundation for their agenda, the powers that be, their agenda for the next year. Because the Wiz came out basically in the last quarter, and here you have the color purple coming out in the last quarter. Now, what's the difference? Another difference, the color purple come out on the day where, quote unquote, Jesus was born. And we're going to do another separate video and talk about that a little bit more. But just look at it this way. The color purple comes out on the day where Jesus was born. From this point, everything is kind of uphill, leading us to the cross. Okay, because between now and then in a few months, you have Pascha or Easter, where we're going towards the cross. But this is the inception point of the sacrifice of the Redeemer. Okay, now the Wiz came out on the day where Methuselah died. Now, this comes from the timeline from the Watchers. Methuselah was 969 years old, I believe, when he died. This was 7 days before they closed the door to the ark. So what's happening after Methuselah's death is a lot of pain and suffering. That is the preparation for the pain and the suffering that is to come. So in 1978, when they released The Wiz, they were preparing the black woman to do everything. And if you think about it, since that time, the black woman has been expected to do everything, to make everything work, to accommodate everybody's everything. Very, very aggressive in trying to get black women to get these things done. Extremely aggressive. So if and by tying it to the flood and tying it to the date that Methuselah died, you have, basically you're guaranteeing that it's going to be unsuccessful. And so The Wiz, when it came out in the box office, I don't know if people know this, but it was very unsuccessful. It was the most expensive movie to make at the time. And it only made about half of what they spent on it. However, it became a cult classic in the black community. Everybody has seen The Wiz. I don't like movies, and I've seen The Wiz. I saw The Wiz even before, when I was younger. That was one movie I did watch. I've seen The Wiz, okay? And by this chart for The Wiz, you can see that a lot of the stuff, the energy is underneath the surface. It is not obvious energy out there, that kind of stuff. This is underneath the surface energy, and that is what is in this chart. Now, on the color purple, this is a beautiful chart. This chart is exactly what you will want to see. You have some things that are under the surface, but most of the stuff is out in the public. Plus, you're utilizing that energy from the full moon to amplify the interest in this particular movie. And so, like I said, because the next things that are coming is basically the cross. That's the next big event is the cross. It's the end of the year, the beginning of the year, Easter. It's the cross. That's the next major event. So because you have this tied to the life of Jesus, this movie, should blow up as big as Jesus did. If you wanted to have a movie where that blew up as much as Jesus, then you would want to time it with his birth. And so the people who pick these dates, they deliberately know what's going on. These dates are not random. As a matter of fact, this is why they don't tell you, like when you look at the previews, they just tell you the year it's going to come out. They don't necessarily tell you when in the year. They don't tell you the exact date. That's because they're waiting to see what the astrology is going to be, and they're going to line it up with the most favorable astrology for that movie. Except they didn't in the case of The Wiz. They lined it up deliberately so that it would be a failure. And if you don't know this, the Wiz failing is the reason why they did not want to produce black movies after that. They used the failure in the box office of The Wiz as an excuse not to produce black movies. Now, what's the opposite of that? You have the color purple, which no one asked for. And the movie is about Celie. They never ever spoke to Whoopi Goldberg about this. I've heard like it is really horrific the way that they treated all the cast members, particularly Whoopi. Particularly Whoopi. She's not a cast member, but she was treated particularly poor because Oprah wanted to make this movie about her. Instead of making it about Celie, the movie is about Celie. It's not about her. So, in order to make that happen, you have to release this movie on a date that's going to give the star quality to who they believe is the Savior. Now, they do believe that Oprah is the Savior. A Savior, a Messiah, whatever, because she is the one who, got black cinema out public and, popular or whatever again with the stuff that she endorsed via her TV show. So, there's probably more I could say about that, but I'll just leave it like that. So, the agenda for next year is for black people to go back to following the star. Basically, let's just break it down. That is their agenda for next year. Just like in 1978, the agenda was for black women to be the savior, to solve all the problems, but not for money. Of course, no. There's no money involved in the Wizard of Oz. It's had nothing to do with money. Even though it was all about money and capitalism and cronyism and all that, it had nothing to do with money. The reason why she was going to the Wiz was not for money. Oh, no, no, no. She was going to the Wiz so that she could go home. So she was begging this fake wizard to give her an identity. And if you think about 1979 forward, that is when the whole term black really rose to its prominence. So again, you have the black woman begging some mysterious wizard for their identity. Much like in The Color Purple, you have black women being forced to come together over trauma. That is what they wish for us to do in the next year. They want us to bond over trauma. Now, I reject that in its entirety. I'm not going to be bonding with women over trauma. However, this is what their agenda is. Now, once we start talking about how to follow the timelines, which I'm going to do in another video, like I said, you will understand why this is important. But this is foreshadowing the agenda that they have for our people for next year. They want black women to bond over trauma. That is what they desire. And with all these women complaining about their payment, not, properly venerating Whoopi as an icon for this character, the main character in the movie, and just all the things that are going on, you can see how they are setting this up so that we as black women fail next year because we can't come together and be happy amongst our own women, because you have these women who can't come together and be happy amongst themselves. So they're creating a scenario and a situation where we are being prepared to argue. And so I find that to be unacceptable in its entirety. And of course, we reject that agenda. But it is important for you to know what the agenda is. You can't fight an agenda. You can't fight an agenda you don't know. So you have take that out there, please. Thank you. You can't fight an agenda you don't know. So this is, just to make everyone aware of the agenda. Now we're going to go, like I said, into detail on how to identify their agenda for our years and how we can use that energy to bring about the agenda that we actually want. There is a way to do that. But again, people need to be aware of their charts. They need to be aware of their skills, their hobbies, their habits, their stuff. This is an individual battle. You have an individual battle that you have to fight, and we have a collective battle that we fight when we come together, like on this channel or the Hebrew Rose of Jericho. We come together, we call everybody, let's go, like she goes to the courts of the Most High, or I'm like, okay, let's look at the timeline. This is the way that we call the energy from our people together to use it to understand or to set the agenda. This is how we set the agenda. We do it through energy. They don't set the agenda. They do set the agenda through energy, but they use movie magic. They use fake hermetic magic to set the agenda. We don't need hermetic magic. We go on the inside and we say, you know what, this is wrong what they're doing. I need to do something to fight back against that. And when we do that, we are able to fight against what their agenda is. And we are 100,000 times more powerful than them. What they have is repetition. What they have is people giving them their energy by going to these movies. We don't have that. So another thing I am encouraging people to do is, if you, whatever it is that you follow that might be interesting, whether it be celebrities or news or other little, cultural things, please put it in the ley line. Share it with people, put it on YouTube. We are mastering this YouTube ley line internet thing. And I was watching like a bunch of these big and bloggers and stuff, and really the problem is that they don't have no souls. They're gatekeepers, and so we have to really fight back against these people trying to gatekeep our people, because that's all they're doing. They're just gatekeeping our people and keeping us from achieving what we need to achieve. So I implore people to get out there and really make it happen, as far as fighting back against these people and the agenda that they have for us, because we can fight back against it, but first you got to see what's going on. Just like with this movie The Color Purple, them trying to set the agenda and basically say that we're going to go along with this, what they're doing. And we're not going to be doing any trauma bonding. It's like, oh, y'all can be in charge, but y'all have to be in charge with all this trauma on your backs. No, we will rule with righteousness, and it will be without the trauma. They're not gonna force us to go into this trauma thing so that we lose our ability and all the hard work that we've done over the last year. They can forget that.